All right, welcome back. Oh, my. GMC Sierra tweet of the night. Okay. They didn't tell me what this was going to be, Chris. This goes back to the days of
You look
KBL.
slick.
Huh? KBL Sports
You look
Beat.
slick, man.
Back when Guy Junker and I were the original hosts before it moved to studios of Channel 11 and Stan Savran took over, and those two guys did a great job with it. But, yeah, that was way back, and I don't even know what year that is. What is no context
it's timeless.
Pittsburgh, by the way?
It's timeless style.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful feed that just sends like very obvious no context pictures from Pittsburgh out there that would be very bizarre to the uneducated Yinzer. That guy in the avatar for No Context Pittsburgh is the guy that said, "Yeah, we're going out here. You know, we're number one out here." Barry Pinger, he's a legend. By the way, when KBL was around for that shot, how many cable channels were there? That's a serious question as a kid that wasn't allowed to have cable till he was like 17,
Yeah,
probably.
Not many. I mean, I don't know what that year started. I can't even remember the start date. So
what would be your guess? What would be your guess for that year if you had to guess?
1989. Probably.
Little Mulsey was 4 years old.
You can tell the hair was a little thicker there. You were okay. Well, were you watching the show?
4 years old.
You were listening.
No, I was watching Sesame Street.
Or Barney, or whatever is the.
No, not
choice.
Barney. Don't you dare say Barney. No, I was a Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers household, like a good Pittsburgher.
All right, hey, I wanted to give a shout out to IUP basketball because we talk a lot about Pitt. They had a big win against Wake Forest last night. We saw Duquesne had a delivery on the court by DoorDash, which was a prank as it turned out, and I thought so as soon as I saw it, but I couldn't figure out why. I guess is it TikTok? Is that what they do? They go and just put something out there. So they had a nice win, but IUP is 19-0, Chris. Did you know that? They're one of the top teams in the country in their division.
Shout out to IUP, 19-0, nothing to sniff at. Bob, while we're doing shout-outs, I would like to give a shout-out to the Pittsburgh chapter of the Public Relations Society of America. I emceed their event tonight. That is the only reason I am not wearing one of my now trademarked and patented T-shirts under this blazer and actually am dressed like a normal human being in a full suit, no less. The only thing I'll say is everyone very nice, very complimentary, but there were a couple lamentations in the audience. They said, "We wish we could have got Pompeani." Sorry.
Well, I'm sure you did a great job. I'm sure you handled it well. Like I said, you're a wordsmith. Well, since we're shouting out, how about this one from Randy Wagner? Says, can you give a shout out to Velma in Moon Township? Hi, Velma in Moon Township. So let's go.
Is that a Scooby-Doo reference?
I don't know. It might be.
It could be.
Then again, I was duped over that Kenny Pickett video last night. I thought that was more recent than it was, so who knows? Although that was impressive, I have to tell you. I hadn't seen it, Chris.
How many takes do you think it took him to make some of those? How many takes do you think it took him?
First of all, would you have put that cone on the head as Morrissey did to take the shot? You know, I mean, I assume
yes.
that's.
If it's a Division I quarterback, I would have trusted that he was going to aim high and just try to clip the top of the thing. But yes, I would have actually trusted the guy to make that throw.
I don't know if I would have done that. Let's go to the lines. We got Nick in Indiana who's up first tonight. What's up, Nick?
Hi, Bob and Chris. A question. Is mediocrity acceptable for Mr. Rooney? You know, there's 10 teams trying to upgrade the offensive coordinator. If Matt Canada is looking for a job right now, do you think he'll at least get a call for an interview from one of these 10 teams?
Well, there's so many openings. There's actually 12 if you look at even past game. You know, bottom line is they feel comfortable with what they have. They have a young offense. They want to keep it moving, and the answer to this whole situation will come as the season unfolds. That's all you can do at this point. They've made their choices. They're going to move forward with what they have. They're going to have a draft. They're going to have some money to spend on a free agent situation, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I'll say this. Some of the teams that are making those changes are ones that seem perpetually stuck in a cycle of losing. But the idea of making changes being like, hey, no, slow and steady wins the race. After 2018, the Chiefs changed out defensive coordinators. Bob Sutton had the 25th ranked defense in the league or 24th in scoring. They go to Steve Spagnuolo. Guess what? Steve Spagnuolo turns them into the 7th ranked defense. They win a Super Bowl. I think that's my biggest issue with the lack of changes with the Steelers. It's connected to their sort of adherence to this Steeler way, and the way we do things is good, and we don't need to change. We don't need to keep up with the Joneses. Bob, this isn't even meant to be all that harsh. It's just meant to make a statement of fact. It has been 6 years since they won a playoff game. There aren't that many teams with a drought longer, only about 10. in the entire NFL. They are worse than average now when it comes to their last playoff win.
Oh, I agree with that, and I thought they would make a change at offensive coordinator. So I thought they're going to be one of the teams looking. But today it's interesting. We saw a couple of moves. Number one, Frank Reich goes to the Carolina Panthers, which I didn't see coming. I wasn't sure how far along that process was, but he is the new head coach. And you have the offensive coordinator of the Jets, an interesting situation here, fired from Denver, going there because he has a history with Aaron Rodgers. Do you think that's the reason why Hackett ended up with the Jets as offensive coordinator, to entice Aaron Rodgers to go there?
Well, I mean, it didn't work once in Denver. I'm not sure it would necessarily work in New York, where Aaron Rodgers would probably have to answer a lot more nasty questions from a less cooperative local media who wouldn't have time for his shenanigans. I would think the Jets are swinging for that home run. The last time a former Green Bay future Hall of Famer went to New York, he only went 9-7 and got in some big trouble off the field. I don't know. It's a risky proposition, Bob, don't you think? You know Hackett doesn't really have a resume outside of working with Rodgers. Go look at his stats. I think he's had 1 year that I would call a good year where he was running an offense that Rodgers wasn't a part of. I might even be misremembering it here, but the guy's been bottom of the barrel otherwise. Yeah. It's a curious decision if you don't land Rodgers.
No, I totally agree with that, especially with a quarterback who's struggling too. And I don't know what they're going to do with Zach Wilson. They spent an awful lot of money. And they spent an awful lot of high-end draft stuff to be there, just like they did with Trey Lance. That's an interesting one. Real quick, what do you think about Trey Lance? Let's say, hypothetically, that San Francisco wins and Brock Purdy is a reason why, maybe not the only reason why, and they go to a Super Bowl. And even if they lose that Super Bowl, but he plays pretty good football, what do you think happens with them?
If Brock Purdy doesn't show any sort of sign that he is like the moment's too big for him and they win, and yeah, like you said, even lose in the Super Bowl, how could you not come back with him as your starter next year? It seems like it would be absurd. Because I've seen a lot of people say, Bob, that, well, Brock Purdy, the league hasn't had time to figure him out. That, again, doesn't work if part of your belief in Kenny Pickett's improvement this year is that he just got more comfortable. Right. The longer Brock Purdy plays, the more Brock Purdy should be figuring the league out and being able to dictate terms. The time to get a rookie quarterback is right off the jump. If he takes them to the Super Bowl, I think he's got to be their starter, and they might have to move Trey Lance.
Yeah, and I wonder what they would get for Trey Lance. He really hasn't done anything. He's been injured for 2 years in a row. What would they get? What would you want? I mean, physically,
I think the guy's an obvious first-round talent. You know, who knows what he would have done in Shanahan's system? Is somebody going to say he's better than most of the guys coming out this year, and I'll give you our first-round pick for him? I don't think that's completely out of the question. I really don't. I think NFL teams love projectability. They'd see Lance, and if the medicals were right, they'd say, well, we could turn him into a guy who's a complete stud.
Stan joins us in Hopewell Township. Hello, Stan.
Hello, Bob.
Go ahead, Stan.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. I enjoy your guys' show, and I just had a couple of comments and a question as far as the Penguins go. I noticed tonight in their stats, the bottom six has been getting a lot of talk lately and controversy over the last month or so. I noticed they only had 2 hits out of the 23 hits tonight. And, that lack of engagement, for the bottom 6, you expect them to be, if anything, more physical than the top 6, not less. So I wanted to kind of cite that. And also, question as to why, whenever it's discussed in the media about the salary cap, how that's restricting us. Because when we won the Cups in 91 and 90 and 09 and 16, we made hockey trades, players for players. If you're trading players that are making money and getting players back, I don't see why we shouldn't be able to, shake up the team a little bit.
Stan, what they had back then was some young guys who came up and really helped. Brian Russ came up. Tom Kuhnackel came up. Wilson came up. Who am I missing? There's another guy.
Gensel.
Yes, Jake Gensel's another one. That was a year later, I think. But they had all these guys who came up and support, and on meager salaries by comparison. Now it's a case of you're going to have to make a trade, maybe player for player, and then you have salary cap issues because some people may not want to spend all the money that it would take to get, hypothetically, Kasperi Kapanen. And as far as, Chris, I don't know what you think. I thought, again, Danton Heinen and O'Connor played okay tonight, but it's not enough. They need more consistency from both the third and fourth lines.
Yeah, they just need their third and fourth lines to be better. I don't know if that's going to happen. To the point, really quick, by Stan, about hits in your bottom 6, I'm not a big zealot about that stat. I think for fourth lines especially, yeah, you want some physicality, but I always think the team that hits more than the other team is often the one that's chasing the play. I would much rather have my bottom six be really dictating terms when they're on the ice, getting a lot of zone time in the offensive zone. I don't know if hits are necessarily always a good or even adequate measure to measure a line's success or failure by.
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to make that other team work hard when they have the puck, work behind the net, keep it in their zone, pound them a little bit when you get a chance, but just take play away from them. We got to go to a break, Chris. We'll take it, come back with more right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.